Hey, I have something I want to say just to get me out of my comfort zone. So hopefully you guys don't bash me. It's everything I am and what I'm not and all that I'm trying to be. This is the part where I spit it all out. You decide what you think of me. I'm not trying to be complicated. I'm never waiting to get the last laugh. But I've been handing out benefits of the doubt. I like a little bit back. It's just a little voice. And if you're listening, sometimes this little voice can say the biggest things. It's just my little voice that I've been missing. Looking over this, that's just moments of hurt, don't it? It can cut both ways. No amount of remembering the better things to make the bad ones go away. But I've been broken and no one to blame. So my savior is self-defense, saw me to sing what I can't say. It's just a little voice. And if you're listening, sometimes this little voice can say the biggest things. It's just my little voice that I've been missing. Just my little voice that I've been missing. Hi guys, and thank you for joining me. My name is Indigo. I'm new to the whole podcast thing and it scares the crap out of me, but guess what? I'm not going to let that stop me. So this morning a friend of mine messaged me and told me corrective criticism, and I needed to hear that. I asked God for something and God basically gave me what I was asking for, some guidance. And so I received that. So a little bit about myself. Yesterday I did a podcast basically with me talking about baggage, burdens, and labels. It's hard to kind of talk about baggage, burdens, and labels when no one really knows who you are, what you do, or why you even started to do what you were doing to begin with. So I'm going to start with this. My name is Indigo, and that wasn't always my name. My name originally was Nicole. I wrote about this in a book that ended up getting an award. The reasoning behind me changing my name and who I am becoming today had everything to do with baggage, burdens, and labels that were placed upon me from my mother. I felt that the only way that I can truly be me was to step away from who I was born and turn into who I wanted to become. There's so many different people in my life that like to dictate my life or label me in a way that didn't really explain who I was. I felt that living behind that name was going to keep me stagnant, moving forward in life. I didn't want to be stuck in this idea, in this impression of what others thought I was supposed to be. A lot of people expected me to fail. But I refuse to let that be something in my life. So with moving forward, I decided to change my name and change everything that was associated to that person and allow that person to get put to rest. I even so much as grieved that person, that older version of me. And I even created a burial for that self. And everything that was associated with who that person was. There's a lot of things in my life that I chose to leave behind me. And there was a lifestyle that I was refusing to want to live. I felt that I deserved to be my own person and to live my own life and to build myself in a way that made sense in my head. Nicole was the daughter of a woman who struggled with lead poisoning, illiteracy, and addiction. And so when everyone saw Nicole, they saw the baggage of her parents. That didn't leave me much room to grow into who I wanted to be. Every time I turned the corner, I was labeled as the daughter of an addict or the daughter of a person that had a lot of disabilities. And a lot of my parents' actions was a burden to me because I wasn't that person, not the person that they were trying to label me to be. I chose to create a lifestyle for myself that freed me from what I consider baggage. I decided to change myself out of that name and into Indigo. That actually came to me one night while I was sleeping. God came to me and said, I'm going to give you the ability to start over. I'm going to allow you to change your name and to become a new person. Just like they've done so many times to so many prophets in the past. I was allowed to break those chains and set myself free. I was allowed to live in my true, authentic self, whatever I felt that was going to be. It wasn't easy. It far was easy. I ended up sending myself in a direction of trying to figure out who that was and what that person wanted. I was so used to living for everyone else that I wasn't sure how to live for myself. I wasn't sure what I wanted or how to pursue my passions. I was so afraid. And even today, I'm still afraid to venture out of my comfort zone and figure out whom I am and my destiny and my path and what I want to see for myself in the future. But I had to start somewhere. So I ended up looking in the mirror one day, and I will never forget this moment. I looked in the mirror and I was so mad at myself. And I said, girl, something has to change. Something has to be different than what you're dealing with today. And I had to sit there and look at myself and say, I don't even know where to begin. There's so many labels and labeling and limited situations in my life that was not allowing me to grow and discover who I was supposed to be, what I wanted for myself, what I wanted for my family, what I wanted for my children. I was kind of stuck in a situation where I was in between the old version of me and trying to discover the new version of me. And I ended up hitting a crossroad because the family and friends that I'm associated with or connected with, there's a lot of trauma and craziness that has to be unpacked within all that situations. It was too much for me. It was too much for me. I said, you know what? I'm going to start over and I'm going to start with myself and I'm going to figure out what it is that I actually want. So I had to write down a goal plan. I said, okay, Indigo, what do you want? Well, I want to help people and I want to heal people and I want to use my gifts to bring deliverance to others. but I am struggling to find my way on making that happen. My grandmother had told me one time in the kitchen, and then my son soon after ended up saying the same. They said, why don't you write about your life? Why don't you talk about your life and about what you experienced and what you went through? That was hard for me to do, because that kind of meant I had to step on people's toes. The only way that I can truly be authentic to myself was to tell my story. I am a 41-year-old woman with 3 children, and I come from a really complicated family setting where there was a lot of abuse, and there was a lot of addictions, and there was a lot of non-acceptance, validation, or understanding. I always felt like I was an outcast. So any black sheeps in the room, I'm going to say, hey, black sheep, you're not alone. A black sheep to me is just someone who decides to do something different than what you're used to. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I went from becoming this young woman that had no clue how to live life to a 360 change of building a life plan that I wanted to see for my future and how I wanted to live my life and the goals and the dreams that I wanted to see myself pursue, and not pass up on opportunities because I was afraid. So I created a new version of myself, a revamp. And I said, okay, well, Nicole was afraid to live. Nicole was afraid of judgment. Nicole was afraid of being anything other than Nicole because everyone else had an opinion of who she was supposed to be. And I wasn't okay with that. I said, well, what do I want? So you know what? I'm going to change my name. And I'm going to start new with who I want to be. So Indigo became a revamp of that person. And I said, okay, well, what does Indigo want in her life? Well, I was born with a unique set of skills that actually came to me in a lot of different ways. So at the age of 2 years old, I got hit by a car with my mother. That ended up taking me to a crossroad where I was presented in front of these golden pearl gates in a blank slated space that was white and bright and full of light. And I was comforted with the comfort of a warm, lit embrace. Kind of like the light you see above me. And I was standing in front of a gate. And I had an option to go past the gate and to end my journey, or to go back and live the contract I had set up for myself with my life. I decided to go back and live this life and whatever it had to give me. When I came back different. I seen the world different. I felt the world different. And I noticed a lot of things within myself that were very surreal for a very long time. So from the ages of 2 to 10, I was lost and confused with my spirituality. I was struggling to discover who I was. I was afraid to live in a world. I was unsure of a lot of things. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't because of the way I was seeing the world. I ended up, at some point in time, I always knew I was different, and I always knew that I had some kind of a gift and ability. I just didn't know what exactly it was. And I want to say about 10 or 11 years old, I was sleeping one night and this voice came out of nowhere in the middle of the night, and it tells me, I want you to go outside and I want you to go to the tree. I was afraid to do that because you're a child, and, you know, things like that were weird, you know, Jeepers Creepers type things, you know, I don't know you, and why would I go outside? I'm a child. But it wasn't like a awake thing. It was a sleep thing. So I was able to venture out of my sleep state and go into the realms of spirit and leave my house. Like, I was able to transition from my bed to outside. Then the spirit tells me, this whatever this voice was says, I want you to think of positive thoughts and leap off the ground. I had no idea what that meant, because as a child, I was like, wait, what? So I can fly if I think of positive things? And the spirit said I could. So I ran with that. I was okay. So I thought really hard about positive things. And mind you, I grew up in a household where there was forever fighting, and there was forever arguing, and there was forever like abuse and just craziness. So to think of happy things was like a big thing for me, because it was hard to be happy when I have always been a depressed child. So I was able to finally be able to transition past the fear of not being happy and leap off the ground. And for many years, I had extreme vivid visions of me flying and traveling. And the spirit tells me, okay, now that we're above, because I was able to, in this vision, I was able, and every vision was always the same, where I was able to fly off the ground, and I would go in the sky above the trees, and the spirit would tell me, I want you to look around, and I want you to look inside the houses. And I was confused with that. I didn't know what the spirit was talking about. That. What do you mean? The spirit says, you have x-ray vision, and I need you to imagine looking past the roof and inside of the house and tell me what you see. So I was able to do that. And I was able to see inside the houses, and I saw families. And that started to make me sad. And I started to fall back down. And Spirit says, what's wrong? You're falling. Lift your vibration back up. Lift your energy back up. Happy thoughts, happy thoughts. And so I ended up putting my mindset back in a happy thought. And I was able to stay afloat and still look down and look at the houses. And the Spirit tells me, what was making you so sad? And I said, because all these houses have families, and they're not like my own. And the Spirit tells me, you were not meant to be like everyone else. And you were not put in a family to be happy. I know that may sound messed up, but this spirit had let me know that my mission was a lot bigger than me. And that I had to get used to being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. And I had to be comfortable with being rejected. Because prophets are never going to be accepted. And they're never going to be respected. And they're never going to be seen like everyone else. As a child, I didn't understand that, but I took that. The Spirit also told me that I was able to travel as long as I was back in my vessel before sunrise. And then I was curious about that, because I said, well, what does that mean? And it was telling me, well, because when sunrise comes, we lose track of who we are, and we will get lost in the realms, and we struggle to find ourselves and find our way back to our vessel, which is pure and goes through a transition of rebirths through the night. And I have traveled and been to a lot of different places A lot of these places I can recall vividly. I've traveled to Egypt, and I can tell you about statues and information from these places, even though I've never physically been there, as well as other countries and even spiritual realms. Spiritual realms, there's a lot of spiritual realms within our realm. The only reason why we can't see them is because we're not on the same wavelength as the vibrational energy that they're on. We're living in a 3D lifestyle, and technically none of this is even real to a sense. So knowing that I was different and knowing that I had all these cool, unique gifts and abilities, I didn't know what to do with them, and I was very, very afraid of them. And for a very long time, I thought that these gifts and abilities were curses. I would get premonitions, and I would get visions of things that hadn't happened yet, or that were about to happen, or had already happened, and I was just reliving this life cycle over and over again as a punishment. I said to myself, well, I can't be the only one that is experiencing this, and I can't be the only one that also has these unique abilities. So I decided to take what was already affecting me and was already going on with me with spirit and try to transition it into a lesson plan of some sort. And that's when I decided to do the start, stop, and release lifestyle blueprint, baggage, burdens, and labels. It's hard to discover who we are when we fight so hard to defend who we are. It's also hard to try to explain who we are to others when we're still trying to figure out who we are to ourselves. And then transition that into a vocabulary that others can, in a way, understand. Like, it's hard to talk to others that are not on your same wavelength because they don't understand you in that same mentality. Like, there's a gap, and we all fall under this gap of fluid. If I'm up here with my energy, and if I'm up here with my understandings of how life is supposed to be and how I'm supposed to move forward in life and what I'm supposed to be doing, and you're someone that's down here on this low vibration, still trying to figure things out without taking corrective criticism or without taking some form of guidance, you're always going to be stuck in that constant repeat, what I consider the limbo. I had to get myself out of that. I had to start to retrain my mindset to think that life didn't have to stay the way that I was brainwashing myself to think I had to stay in. My mindset was so stuck on, well, I'm my mother's daughter, and I'm my father's daughter, and so their baggage, burdens, and labels are mine too to carry. And I'm a neat freak, so when it comes to my life, things had to be cleaned up. And I have OCD, so I struggle with giving everyone else the chance to have control of helping me. Sabotage has always been a huge thing for me. Not being respected and heard has always been a big thing for me. And there's so many people that come in my direction that don't get heard, that don't get respected, that boundaries get stepped on. I try to help to get you guys out of that mindset. I'm far from perfect. I'm not an easy person to handle. I'm not an easy person to deal with. And I am not for everyone. I know I can be complicated. I'm just strong and stern on how I feel and how I see things. Tay, hey, I see you, Zay Leon over there. Hi, Sean. Like, these are the few people that know me to know that I'm really strong and I'm very big and bold with my personality. I want to help and heal everyone all the time. If I have it, I'll give it to you. And I would never wish harm or want to do harm to anyone. I wish that others would respond in that same way with me, but that's not always the case. So why am I here today? Well, to kind of explain a little bit about who I am and what is it that I do. Yesterday, I did a video. It was the first one ever. I was very afraid and I was very, very out of place. It was definitely past my comfort zone. I was given a proposition today, and so I hope that I was able to fulfill that proposition right before I came on this live, or at least proceeded with this live. I'm here to help those that want to help themselves. I'm here for those that are looking for guidance and don't know where to go to get it. I'm here to help those that love to want to change within themselves. Baggage, burdens, and labels for me was basically my ability to allow others to see what was going on in their own lives and break free from those things that we keep ourselves hostage to. You would be so surprised to understand the amount of people that literally lock themselves up in chains and will not allow them to move forward out of fear. But fear is not of God. Fear is the work of the enemy. And whenever you feel like you're headed towards the direction of change and growth, that's when you're going to have the most hardest time getting your point across with your life. Because if you think the devil doesn't work overtime, they do. They do. This last 5 years have been my highs and my lows. I have had to revamp myself and also step away from a lot of baggage that wasn't due to me. I had to let go of burdens that were not my own burdens. And I had to peel away at those labels that were placed on me from others. I'm an open book. I don't have anything to hide. And I don't have time to sugarcoat. I felt like writing my book, the best person to tell about my life and everything that I've done was me. There's nothing that's been told about me that I haven't already talked about. I'm far from perfect. I have my flaws. I have an attitude. I could be a bit sarcastic. I could tend to be rude sometimes. But I also take responsibility for those actions, because I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I love helping others. I love guiding someone in the direction that they need to go if they need help in those areas. I love hearing Indigo. Because of you, my life has done a 360. That makes my day. I love being around people and spirit comes to me and I can talk to them about what their ancestors have to say to them while I'm helping them get their life back on track. I am a award-winning published author with a book I created about my life, where I talk about who I was and transitioning to who I'm becoming. My book is 21 Steps for Change, When Life Gives You Lemons, Work, Build, Love by Odyssey. I chose that name, Odyssey, because I felt like I was on an adventure and I was still trying to discover who I am. With that, I became a licensed lifestyle coach and an ordained minister. I always said one day I wanted to run my own church, or at least be able to teach people that there's a lot more to life than what you think, and that everything is interconnected in one way, shape, or form. On top of that, I was able to get the opportunities to be able to work with the community. For those that are in rehabilitation. It's funny because it's ironic. I come from a family of addiction, so for me to be the one to help others fulfill their ability to move past addiction and in a path of rediscovery and recovery was like a major thing for me. God was definitely listening to what I was asking for. With being able to help others in that way with recovery, a vision came to me of a baggage, burden, and label lifestyle blueprint. I feel like I'm the first person to bring therapy to life with an interactive game. This game and how I approached in doing it, I was surprised because I didn't know if it was going to work. But I had faith. And the way that it affected those that I was teaching had me in awe. I want to reintroduce this game to all of you, but in an interactive way where we can interact through the screen. I want to bring to you guys a series of my 21-step series to baggage, burdens, and labels, this game called life, where I get to teach you how to break these baggage, how to release the burdens, and unpeel away those labels the society has placed upon you. We are not who everyone says we are, but we are who we say we want to be. I say next week, I'll give you guys the ability to take the time to collect all the props that I'm going to need you guys to participate with me on. I'm going to need you guys to grab some form of a bag. It can be a book bag. And we'll be doing this starting next week. With that bag, I want you to be able to fill it up with all the things you consider to be a burden in your mind. And then I want you to, if you have Post-its, great. We'll consider those labels. But if not, I want you to write a letter to yourself. I want you to write a baggage, a burden, and a label for yourself. What do you see as a baggage, burden, and label in your life? And then I'm going to teach you how to unpack it. And I'm going to teach you how to start to rebuild yourself up in a way that you can see yourself in a better light. We're not perfect. We are perfectly imperfect people living in an imperfect world trying to be perfect. We are always going to be unheard until we're heard. And we're not going to be listened to and valued until someone accepts that we are who we say we are to be. Placing boundaries is a must. Respecting your boundaries is necessary. Nothing can be built without self-love. When you start to grow self-love within yourself, you teach yourself how to grow. Cutting away from the words and the phrases and the feelings we keep ourselves burdened to. My personal issues with those are, I struggle with baggage. Baggage for me is having to take care of my children's animals because they have to do things that are important. Burdens for me are having to answer the phone and having to get rattled or feel crazy because something's happened to my children because they've done that to themselves. Baggage for me is having to be there for those that won't always be there for me. Baggage for me is having to stand up for those that wouldn't do the same for me. Baggage for me is having to understand that I will never be accepted the way I want to be. I hope you guys saw the orb. Spirit is with me right now. Someone's family is here also because I can feel it. My third eye is hurting me, so definitely. Burdens, baggage, labels. Labels, baggage, burdens. However you want to see it. Break free from this idea that you can't be something different than what you are. Accept the things that you have control over. And let go of all the things that don't matter. You will start to feel free when you can allow yourself to be free. There's only so many things you can control. I can't control everything. There's a lot of things in my life that I hate. There's a lot of things in my life that I feel that could be different. But I can only do my best with what I am in control of. And that's hard for me because I don't like to give up control. I want you guys to be able to leave with today thinking, next week, I'm going to have a proposition for all of you to really think about what burdens you, what's being held on as baggage, and what you consider to be limiting labels in your life. Not only that, I want you to look around your house. And I want you to look around your job. And I want you to look around your life. And I want you to look at the things that you feel serve no purpose and deserve no place. And that doesn't just mean items and materials and, things that you no longer care for. If you're holding on to things from people from the past that did something to you, let all that go. It serves no purpose. If you're afraid to move forward because of something that someone did or said, let that go. It doesn't matter. I heard a phrase once that said, those that matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter. That's a huge thing for me because you have to use those words when you're moving forward. Start to get ready to purge the people that don't deserve to be in your space. Get comfortable with purging words that don't deserve to have a place in your head. And get ready to purge the things that no longer deserve a part in your heart that we hold on to. Pain is something that is hard to let go of and moving past from, but it's necessary in order to grow. Break free from those things that hold you hostage. I'm not going to ramble, and I'm not going to keep going on, and I'm not going to keep, talking about particular things today. There's a lot of things that I do want to talk about, and I will over time. And there's a lot of people that I'm going to start bringing on to talk with me because I feel like a lot of people have similarities when it comes to my path and my destiny and the things that I'm trying to do. Like, say, for instance, my friend. I'm not for everyone. I could be a bit complicated. I have a big soul. I have big energy. And I have a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of things I can say right now outside of me just talking about myself. I feel spirit. I was born with a unique set of skills. I can hear, see, sense, and feel energies. I do tarot as well. I know that A lot of those that are in religion would definitely bash me by saying that. But one thing religion has taught me when it comes to tarot is you have to know how to understand spirit. And you need to understand how spirit works. There's rules to this cool thing called spirituality. And there's laws as well. Spirit doesn't always have respect for boundaries. And sometimes we have to help them cross over or even realize that they're gone. The veil between us and those that have crossed over is very thin. And me working hand in hand with my approach to helping others plays a big role when it comes to spirit. So because I'm a licensed life coach who happens to be a minister with psychic abilities, I use my discernment to help others understand their path and their direction. You'll be surprised on how many times during one of my lessons, an ancestor will pop in and say, hey, I need them to get helped because they need to get this, that, and the other going in the right direction. Speaking of someone, one of my friends is actually watching. So my godson's mother and her sister, they have a interesting story. I'm not going to really touch on it, but they have an interesting story when it comes to spirits and their background. And I have the ability of being able to help and heal others when those have crossed over. So my teaching goes beyond teaching and more of a healing aspect. I always knew I was different, and because of this, I have always been judged. I was told for a very long time in my life to be quiet about anything to do with spirituality. Anything to do with spirit, anything to do with me seeing things that I probably shouldn't have been seeing, or talking about things I had no business talking about. But that was not my fault. You know, spirit has a way of making you do things you don't want to do to help someone else that needs to hear what you have to say. So I use those gifts and abilities to help and heal others the best the way that I can. So with being a licensed life coach, as well as this minister with psychic abilities, I am using baggage, burdens, and labels as a way to release the burdens we place upon ourselves to become someone new. So if you heard what I said earlier about writing out your baggage, burdens, and labels to yourself, next week I'm going to start an approach on how to break those things down so that you can better understand how to release all of these things that you keep yourself hostage to. For the next couple of days, I'm just going to be going into me getting more comfortable being on camera, me being more comfortable with expressing who I am and what exactly it is that I do, and my approach on how to bring my interactive lesson plan through a podcast. This is a new avenue for me, so I hope that a lot of you are patient with me with trying to figure this out. But I feel that baggage, burdens, and labels, this game called life, can be very useful if I can just figure out the approach of bringing it in a way where you guys can interact with it, get feedback, and heal all at the same time. I'm not going to go too much into this because, well, I got to figure out the lesson plan. But in the meantime, I would encourage you guys to write your letters, your baggage and what it is to you, your burdens and what it is to you, and your labels and what it is to you. And the next couple of days, I will be showing you guys how to break it all down. We're going to intersect and start to realize the things that are repetitive in our lives so that we can start to break those chains. And I might end up doing a reading depending on what Spirit wants for me. Because right now I'm getting a lot of channeled messages, but I'm not comfortable with doing that at the moment. I feel that it's individual. It should be personal and one-on-one. In due time. In due time. I'm going to leave it here. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. I don't want to feel like I'm rambling and doing too much until I get more comfortable with being on camera. But if you're interested, I will be back later around 6 o'clock or so with a good friend and colleague, Zillion, where we're going to touch deep on some subjects that we feel like need to be talked to or talked about. And it's things that a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about. Well, that's our part. We like to talk about things others won't talk about. So until I see you guys again, I will hope to see you guys back here in the future. 6 o'clock today, Central Standard Time. I will be on again with a guest. And tomorrow and here on out, I will try to work on giving you a viewing at 3 o'clock. I love you guys, and God bless. Talk to you soon.